Good afternoon. Our speaker today is Marvin Sims, and he's going to be talking about a program called Stripes that he runs at Mounds View School District and I believe Irondale. Anyway, he has his undergraduate degree from the University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, and he has a bachelor in sociology. He was also a football player when he was there. He received his master's degree in special ed from St. Cloud State University and worked as an EBD teacher for 9 years. While he was doing that, he earned his administrative license at Hamlin. And he began his career at Mounds View School District in 2009. He worked as Dean of Students at Irondale High School and is currently Dean of Equity Services for both Irondale and Mounds View schools, where he runs the Stripes program. He plans to obtain a doctorate degree in educational philosophy in the future. I guess you like school. And he is originally from Apple Valley, currently lives in Andover with his wife Allison and their 2 children, Cassie, who's 10, and John, who's 6. And he enjoys traveling to Chicago and Arizona with his family, reading and exercising. He did his first half marathon in June, and he competed in the Tough Mudder, and he's seriously on the edge of training for a full triathlon that he thinks he's going to be doing in June. And I think I heard about Marvin from you, didn't I, Don? Well, I don't know. Don the man from Rotary that knows everybody, so he's always calling me and saying, you need to know so-and-so. I think that's how that all transpired. And the program that Marvin runs is a post-secondary education program to help kids really stay in school, do well in school, seek out academics and things like that. And when I heard about it, it kind of reminded me of our Strive program, although I think it's a little bit different than that. And I just really think it's neat that he's doing this work and he's helping one student at a time. He's got a group that he works with, but he's making a difference in these kids' lives. So let's hear from Marvin.
Thank you for inviting me here. I just want to say that even though I'm not an official Rotarian, I think I am today. Just realizing what I do for kids and families. So I think we have the same vision. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Stripes, which stands for Students Together, Respecting the Importance and Purpose of Education in Schools. And it's a mentoring program designed to get kids into college, but then after college, making sure that they're productive citizens. But I really want to up the ante, and I'm not going to call it a mentoring program. This is going to be a program that truly saves the lives of kids. And we do a couple things very, very well. The first is inspiring kids to use education as a pathway to accomplish their dreams. That's why they're in school. The second piece is we're going to walk our kids through truly what it takes to become a success in the classroom. The third piece is we're going to expose our kids to opportunities that they never would have dreamed of if they didn't join our program. And then the last thing is to connect them with so many people that at any given time, they can answer an email, pick up the phone, and somebody's there to touch them to tell them why education is so important. And when you get those things all working in concert, now I have a safety net that's woven so tightly that it's impossible for any kid to fall through the cracks. So I gave you a little bit, but I really want to tell you what Stripes is about. And that's my story. So I'm going to take you guys back real quick to 1989, my freshman year at Apple Valley High School. Now, I'm a graduate there of Apple Valley, but I hit the educational trifecta. And the educational trifecta at this point in time, whether it be California or Minnesota, is not so well if you fall into these 3 categories. So I fell into the category of being raised by a single parent, born into poverty, and really had no one to tell me how to navigate the school system. And what that turns out to be now is this achievement gap that we have. What it turns out now is the overcrowding of our prisons, our jails. What it turns out to be now is a bunch of kids struggling. And it's very difficult. So my freshman year in high school, my head track coach pulled me aside Said, what do you want to do with your life? So I told him, I said, I wanted to become a plumber or maybe an electrician. He looked at me, he showed me my grades, and I failed every class. So he gets about this close to my face and the spit's flying. And he's telling me, you know what, today is the day. I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going to let you fail anymore. The next time I see you in this office, he said, if I see you, there's going to be trouble, right? So I walked out of his classroom or the office, and I was smiling and I was crying at the same time. I was smiling because I grew up without a dad, right? And somebody is actually caring about me. I was crying really because I never had nobody talk to me that way. I mean, just imagine an educator now pulling a kid aside, right? Getting in his face, saying a few choice words that I can't say right now, right? Scared me, but it inspired me. 3 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. And then that letter said, it was from my head football coach. And he said that he saw talent in me. And said that one day, and he knew I was a football guy, he hoped to see my name in the USA Today on National Signing Day. And everyone knows if you're a college athlete or aspiring college athlete, everyone wants their name in the paper. Everyone wants to have their name in the USA Today. So fast forward 3 years later, here's what I did with that note. I read it every morning, and I read it every night before I went to bed. 3 years later, I ended up earning a full ride scholarship to University of Nebraska. And while I'm walking in the hallways, a buddy of mine said, hey, I saw your name in the USA Today. So you gotta be kidding me. So yeah, I have it right here. Ended up cutting out my name, putting it on that letter, marching into my high school football coach's office, and I said, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you. When you think about high school coaches, these big, bulky, tough guys, first time I ever seen a man cry. I say that story because that is where I am going to begin my true story. And Becky talked about, you must love education. Well, let me tell you something. I failed every class my freshman year. My high school coach said get a 2.5 and get an 18 on your ACT. That's all you need to get in. So I reached that level. And as an educator right now, I can tell you, if you set the bar super high, our kids are gonna get there. So he said he told me, 18, 2.5, that's what I got. If you'd have said 3.0, I would have got that. So I graduate, I go into University of Nebraska, I play football, I am there. Lincoln, Nebraska is a very big college town. I ended up blowing my knee out, so I ended up transferring to University of Northern Iowa. So I played a couple years there, I was plagued by injuries, but I graduated. So I got done, and I have my BA in sociology. Well, no one ever tells you that you can't do much with sociology, right? They never tell you that. So here's what I did since I love football. I went back and I was a para in a special education classroom for 2 years. And my educational journey begins from there. I ended up working under a master teacher. And just to see this guy talk with kids, work with kids, inspire kids, I sat back like a sponge. I said, wait a minute now, this is a thing of art. It truly is. He came up to me and said, you know what, you work very well with kids. Have you ever thought about going back and getting your teacher's license? And by the way, I make more in 3 days than you make in 2 weeks. I said, okay, I'll go back to school. I said, do you think I can? He said, yeah, go back. So I went back to St. Cloud State and I earned my teacher's license. Great journey. I was on my way to marrying my current wife now. And my father-in-law said at the time, if you ever think about joining this family, you better bring some more money in. So I need you to go back and get your master's. So I said, do you think I can? He said, yeah, go back. So I went back and I got it. Now let me tell you something on the way up to St. Cloud State off of 94 West. I'm sitting there and I'm driving up and I'm crying like just tears. People are looking at me like I'm crazy, right? But the reason why I was crying is because it was the first time in my life I had to use this instead of my athletic ability. So I'm thinking about where I come from. I never had the model. I never seen anybody graduate. People told me I could do it, but my hook was football. So now I get up there and I'm thinking, okay, and I have to compete. So I brought in my family. I brought in my mother. I brought in those tough times. And what that happened, the end result was I ended up getting my master's degree. I taught for 9 years, and then another person came up to me and said, you work very well with kids. I'm an assistant principal, you're a special ed teacher. Have you ever thought about going and getting your administrative license? So what did I say? You think I can? So yeah, I went and I got it. So now I'm a dean. Here's the story again. A couple of buddies of mine said, you know what, I like what you're doing, but if you want some validity in this program, I think what you're gonna have to do is go ahead and get your doctorate. I'm getting it. Here's the program before I get into it. Whoever thought that a letter way back in high school, a couple words of inspiration, some people who said, do you think you can? And I went out and I got it. Now, I can't tell you that I won't tear up because now I'm talking about my kids. So the only way that I work, I am Stripes. Bloomington Kennedy, Jefferson High School, there's Stripes kids there. Here's why I'm so passionate. I got a daughter who's 10 and a son who's 6. And my daughter wants to be a marine biologist. So I might change. My son wants to be a farmer and he's 6. So that might change, right? But we said, we're taking her out to San Diego. You want to be a marine biologist? We're gonna show you the ocean. So we get out there and all of a sudden the tears start coming down my eyes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I shouldn't even be here. Because what education has allowed me to do with my family, it's a beautiful thing. So when I start talking with our kids, I sell it. Because I know what their life's about, and I know with education, and you have a purpose, and you know how important it is, you get that buy-in. So for my kids, that's what it's about. We're really trying to use education for them to save their lives. So at Irondale, this is unheard of. Because the educational trifecta, we know about students of color, we know about socioeconomic status, and then here we added disability. But we're saying now, we have a promise to our kids. In 1992, when I graduated, there was no promise. I just happened to get lucky because my 2 older brothers, one of them never graduated high school. And I look at his life and I look at mine, and I'm so thankful that people surrounded me with love. So we have this equity promise in our senior hallway. And basically what we're telling our kids, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your disability. We have a bunch of caring adults that refuse to let you fail. So it's great. But there they are. Here are some of our Stripes kids from Mounds View and Irondale High School. None of them have ever been on a college campus. So where did we go? We went to Augsburg College. I want to highlight a couple of kids because there's nothing more powerful than stories. So this is one of my seniors last year. He's at Winona State. He failed his freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year. Maybe he earned a D+. Here I am coming over his senior year at Mounds View High School. Why would he invest in this program? I don't know. So he comes in. I heard this is good for kids, and I want to join. He ends up getting a 3.0 his first semester and his second semester at Mounds View. He is one of my leaders in the program, so I had him give a 5-minute speech at the end of the year about how to overcome adversity and what it truly means to become a student. I ended up partnering with a friend of mine from Winona State. He heard his story. He said, I want this kid on my campus just for a week. I really want to see what he's about. So he brought him to, it's called the Hope Academy down in Winona State. And I ended up going to his ceremony. He ended up graduating from Hope Academy, the leadership team, right? But then the second letter was a letter of admittance to Winona State. A buddy of mine went to the president and said, you got to see this kid. He said, disregard his GPA, disregard his ACT score, disregard his transcripts. You got to see this kid. So I asked the Chidi, what really was the deciding factor to get you in? Why'd you change? Somebody believed in me, which happened to be me. I had 4 deans in 4 different years. No one ever cared. You walked me through what it truly took to become a student. So now if I see a kid and I would see a Chidi, what are you getting in chemistry? And he tells me at 75, that's not good enough. 76, can you measure that? What are you putting in? How much time are you putting in? Everything is down to the number. And I didn't want to leave anything to chance with this guy. So there might be those days where I was at his house till 2 o'clock in the morning. There might be those days where I'm picking him up for school. There might be those days where I got to inspire him in any way that I can for him to understand this gift that he has. So he took it. Now he's a freshman at Winona State. Really quick, this student right here, if I had to share his story with you guys, it'd bring me to tears. He failed every class. Now he's on the A honor roll. And if you tell him that he's not going to be anything or amount to anything, seriously, he would look at you like, how dare you? A couple years ago, he would say, you're right, I'm not going to be anything. What I found out about this power of human connection, the power of love, the power of sharing your story, the power of saying, okay, in so many ways you can make it, kids buy in. And when they buy in, great things happen. So I want to flood our kids with so many people that it would be impossible for them not to have at least a couple of people that say, we love you. So last year, I don't know if you guys can see this, Justice Alan Page walks in to Mounds View. Our kids can call Justice Alan Page. Our kids can say, hey, how do you navigate the college life? Justice Page was 1970, I think 74, 75, 76. He was a Minnesota Viking. He was a Hall of Fame defensive end. Won every award that you can imagine in football. So he comes to our kids and says, let me tell you something. Pro football was easy. Going to the Hall of Fame was easy. You know when I really struggled? He said when he failed the bar his first time. So our kids are saying, wait a minute now, I got this professional athlete, and even he struggles a little bit in class. So then he starts telling them about these character traits. And I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about character traits, but I want to be the first to tell you my story wasn't really about that guy who put in 80 hours studying. It wasn't about that guy who was born with this inherent set of skills, because that wasn't it. It was about people who invest in you, and it's about willing to really live out what your true purpose of life is about. So I bring our kids in, and they meet people who say, you know what, you can do it in 1,000 different ways. So this picture is very important because the student with the blue shirt on happens to be the president of National Honor Society at Mounds View High School. So what we're trying to do now is tell our kids, we're all in this together. Please come down on a Monday. Please help our kids during mandatory study hall, but let's get in the water and swim with the kids. So we don't have any of that, well, I'm not smart enough, because all kids want is to be able to help each other out and succeed together. So that picture is very near and dear to my heart. When we talk about education, I think you guys need to understand best practice or what's really going on. Now, to the right, Paul Tough, his book, How Children Succeed, number 7 on the New York Times bestseller. Now, this is an educational book, and he's talking about predictors of success. And what they're realizing now is that it's not a GPA that really measures how well a kid's going to be successful in college. It's these character traits such as perseverance, grit. Now just think about grit. Setting your sights on a goal and never stopping till you get it. I told you a quick story about my grit. It was one day I'm gonna be there, but I didn't tell you the silver lining. And the silver lining to my story was this. I'm 39 years old, I turned 40 in June. I had a broken heart at the age of 10. I grew up in a single parent household, in poverty. In some way, I said, I'm not gonna live my life like this. I gotta get out, and I gotta do this for my family. So when I was in classes, I brought my mom in there and said, Algebra 1 or statistics, I don't care. This is for my mom. This is for my life. So now when I go out and I speak around about this topic, this is for my kids. So it puts a different context or meaning on it. So if I had to just think about people in this room, I don't know your story, but somehow there's perseverance in there. You guys have struggled through some things, all right? Self-control and optimism. I want to teach our kids right now, we're going to sacrifice who we are right now for what we want to be in the future. So that self-control is huge. So if I get a kid now saying, I'm going to sacrifice who I am right now for who I want to be, then on Mondays in the Stripes program, we wear suits. On Mondays in the Stripes program, every day we're the first person in class. So now what I get is that kid practicing these skills because I want them to understand what it truly takes for them to be successful. So now here's the glue to this. I take kids who get up in the morning, who sometimes don't have people in their corner, who struggle just to make it through the day, right? And if I was in their shoes, it would be tough. I marry that with truly understanding what academics is about. Now, I have the intellectual piece, I have the social emotional component. And when I get those two together, now you have a student. Now you have a student that's unstoppable. So I teach our kids, okay, you're very strong in these areas right here. I'm gonna marry that with academics. And that's what I have in our program, our kids who truly understand, hey, wait a minute, education is now a game changer. So when I come to school, I know what it's about. So when I'm in class, I have a why. It's really not about the chemistry or the Algebra 1. What it's really about is me using this as a pathway to get to where I want to be. So it's a different conversation. What I'd like to do, and this is why I'm here, I understand what it takes for kids. And when you look at current high schools, middle schools, their model is, well, you come to I don't know, Bloomington Kennedy High School. We have some programs for you, and we want you to succeed. What I'm finding out that works is I need to partner with as many people as I can. So now in so many certain ways, you guys are touching our kids saying you matter. So what we've done this year is partner with a couple people. Genesis Works is one. Genesis Works has set up a partnership with several Fortune 500 companies in Minnesota. And they're looking for students who have that grit, who have overcome a lot of adversity. And what they do is they give our kids, if you make it through the interview process, they give you an 8-week training. And you make it through that 8 weeks, and they're training you into IT skills, so computer skills. You get through that 8-week training, they're gonna place you in a Fortune 500 company. Right now, I have 5 kids in Medtronic. Now, these kids have similar stories. Now, and you intern your senior year. So just imagine these kids walking around with their shirt on, and it says Medtronics on the left shoulder here, and they're just sitting waiting for their ride to Medtronic, and kids are asking, hey, where are you going? I'm going to Medtronic. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I just went through a graduation ceremony. Now our kids are passing out cards saying, hey, contact me. It says young businessman on it, right? We're talking about sending our kids to school. And if we know now that education is the ultimate equalizer, then we need to get them there. So we're talking a 2-year school or 4-year school, it doesn't matter. But my goal is to have every university say, okay, how can we help your kids? What do we need to do? So if it's a 2-year school, we partner with North Hennepin Community College. North Hennepin, at any given time in Irondale, you can see guys walking in, and they're our big brothers, but we usually, I call them mentors, but they're in our classrooms, they're talking with our kids, and they're showing them, hey, one day, this could be where you could end up. Or one day, you can use education to become successful. But I want our college, our students to really understand what it takes to be in college. I got an email from one of my former Stripe students, and he said, have you ever brought your kids to class? I said, what are you talking about? Have they ever sat in a college classroom? I said, no. He emailed the professor. The professor said, next month, bring them down. Put them in the classrooms, let them understand what's going on so they can see that. That's another exposure thing that our kids need to have. At the University of Minnesota, we have e-mentors. Please tell our kids in so many ways why education is important. So how does that look? A student from University of Minnesota can say, and please email our kids during finals week, because you want to tell them the story over and over again. Here's how long I've been in the library. This is what I've been doing to prepare. I want our kids to hear that message. And that's a great way to do it. We have summer camps, we have vertical mentoring. So now our kids are going down to middle schools and elementary schools, and we're giving back. And then we celebrate we celebrate them like crazy. So if I really had to boil this down to really what we're doing, and I shared with you a couple stories, I shared with you about partnerships, I shared with you about why I'm here. Stripes is a model of a middle-class family. All right? When I say middle-class family, and that's kind of vague, but in so many ways, what we're doing, if you have a 2-parent household, is you're saying over and over again to your son or your daughter, you can do it. You're signing them up for soccer, you're signing them up for piano, you're signing them up for all the things that you want them to do. And it has no bearing on their academic success, but we do it because we love our kids. So when I talk about setting up a program, I just happen to love my kids. So why can't they get the same opportunity? So when you talk about really what we're doing in so many different ways, I can sit a kid down from an affluent neighborhood, I can sit a kid down from poverty, and I can say, okay, tell me a little bit about your story. What'd you do last summer? And if a kid says, I went to summer camp, our kids are going. If a kid says, you know what, my mom's a doctor, I'm gonna connect you with one. If our kids say, you know what, I always wanted always wanted to become maybe a doctor or a lawyer too, then Justice Page is gonna walk in. At any given time, it should be the same. So when you create a system where it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, and how much money your family makes, or the zip code you fall into, and I can mirror that, and I can grow that, then that's when you truly have a program that saves lives. So we're not talking about the gap anymore. There won't be a gap. It's just a bunch of people deciding to put their hands around kids and love them up. And in education, that's what it's going to take. So that is the Stripes program. And pretty soon what you're going to get, it's in both high schools right now. It's at Irondale and it's at Mounds View. And now we're filtering it down to Highview Middle School and Edgewood Middle School this year. In about 2 years, it'll be down to the elementary schools. So now I have a vertical pipeline that ensures that all kids throughout their experience won't fall through the cracks. And when you get that, here's what you get when they go off. We're not going to save them by the 10s or the 15s. We're going to send them off by the hundreds. So you send them off by the hundreds, they come back to their communities. And when they come back to their communities, now it's okay to see our baseball coach or our football coach has a degree from Hamlin, has a degree from Augsburg. And when you start getting kids to buy into why education is so important and they do graduate, then you get that ripple effect. So now their lives are changed forever, their kids' lives are changed forever, and generational poverty is done. So right now, I'm first generation. I was a first generation student in poverty, right? And we all know it takes 3 years for it to stop. So my kids have to graduate, their kids have to graduate, and poverty in our family is shut off. But it starts with an education. It starts with graduating. So that's really the ultimate goal. So if I had to focus really on education versus changing our kids' lives, that's the ultimate goal. So I thank you guys for inviting me here to talk about the program and the kids. I really appreciate it. So thank you.